What's up, guys? This is Corey with the Dirty Gym, back with another video for y'all. So today we are going to be taking kind of our last look in the current format. Starting next week, I really want to start looking forward into what's going to be coming up with the Set 7 reveals and everything like that. Start working on some decks for that. Like I said, we're at the end of this current format. This is the last regional coming up. We're not really doing a regional preview for this weekend because it's pretty much going to be the same stuff. You're going to see your Hydamasters, your Kidkus, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be near the top, at the top, all that kind of stuff. The format for the most part, I think, is kind of figured out. There's always room for things to kind of pop up, but with this being really the last big event here, I think it's time to start moving forward. But we do want to cover one last deck. This is kind of a pet deck for me. I think it's a really fun deck. It's a deck that I've been playing with going back 2 or 3, 4 formats now. I think it's probably in a better place now than it's been in a little while. And this is it's a pan deck, but it's a pan deck utilizing the Dimension Support Trunks to bring in vanillas to make big guys and things like that. So let's go ahead and get over into our list. Alright, so we've got our leader Pan. So for those of you who are unaware, so Pan on the front side, she has auto once per turn whenever you play a battle card. It gets plus 5,000, and if that battle card has 20k or more power, you draw a card. She's an untap 2 when she awakens, and on her backside she has the same thing. And then whenever she attacks, she draws a card. So she's a pretty good standard solid leader. She's been around, really relevant for the most part since she's been around. Back, well, what is it, set 3 she came out, I believe. So she's always been around. She's never like quite dominated a format. Like, I don't even think that she's won like a huge major event, but she's always been very good, very consistent. She does really good things. She draws, she buffs things. So she's been well-rounded. So moving into our list, we've got 4 Intensifying Power Trunks. So this is just your standard 1-drop. Whenever it swings, you can draw a card, or you can take a card from life. It gets plus 10,000 and crit. Great Self-Awakening. It's a great evolve target because it's a Trunks GT, which we have targets for that. So overall, just a very great card. Whenever you're playing red, this is one of your go-to cards in red. Moving on from that, we've got 4 Everybody's Pal Yamcha. So it's a 2-drop 15k auto whenever it swings. You can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose an Earthling card you find there, and put it into your hand. This is a really great card for the deck. We're running a lot of Earthlings. So since the anniversary box, people have been kind of debating the split between the Yamcha and the Surge of Energy or Surge of Power Trunks. I feel like for our list, Yamcha is still the better go-to because we've got more Earthling targets that we really want to find. And I like his being able to, every turn he swings, being able to fetch a card off the top. So whenever you play him with the Pan, he becomes a 20k that draws effectively 2 cards, one from the Pan ability and then one from his ability. So it's pretty strong there. Moving on into that, we're going to cover both of these together, but it's our vanilla package. So we're running 2 of the 2-drop 20k Piccolos, and then 4 of the 2-drop 20k Yamchas. Ideally, we're never hard casting these. I mean, if we absolutely have to, it effectively becomes a 2-drop 25k draw card with our leader, which isn't too terrible, but we have cards that help us bring these into play. That's why they're here, to help us really get into the swarm and things like that. Moving on, we've got 2 of the Anniversary Box Trunks like we talked about, so it's a 2-drop 15k. It's got an auto once per turn. Whenever this card's power is increased by a skill, you draw a card. So whenever you play him with the Pan, he becomes a 20k that draws 2, which is really strong by himself. He's also a Trunks GT, so he's an evolve target. So all around really good card. Like I said, I prefer the Everybody's Pal Yamcha in what we're doing because we are trying to fetch several Earthlings and things like that, so I feel like Yamcha's a little bit better with what we're trying to do, but he's never like a bad card by any stretch of the imagination. Moving on from that, we've got 2 burst attacks on Gohan. This is a really great card. So it's a 3-drop 15k critical, and then he's got an auto whenever he swings. If you have 4 or less cards in your hand, you can draw 2 additional cards. So he's a really great way to refill our hand. He's critical, which is really good for us. Critical is a great way to be attacking. Just all around really great card. He's also an Earthling, so Yamcha can find him. Moving on into that, we've got 3 Digging Deep Vegeta. So this is another really great Self-Awakening card. So it's a 3-drop 15k. It's got the auto whenever this card attacks once per turn. You may take up to 2 life. As long as you take at least 1, he gets plus 5,000 and then untaps. So he effectively becomes 20k dual striker or dual attack. And then when you're playing him with Pan, he gets the 5k there. So then he becomes 25k dual attack, which is really nice. Moving from there, we've got 4 Double Shot Vegeta. So this is a 3-drop 15k. And it's got the auto whenever you combo with this card. If your leader is red, you may put it into play in rest mode. So this is a really great way to be able to defend and draw cards on our opponent's turn. If your opponent swings in, you can pay 1, combo with this. Whenever it comes into play, Pan's auto triggers, gives him plus 5k, then you get to draw a card. So great ways to draw cards on your opponent's turn. Next up, we've got 3 Fearless Pan. So it's a 3-drop 15k. She's barrier blocker. And then she's got, whenever she comes into play, all of your other red battle cards and leaders get plus 5k and double strike. So she's a great like an Anthem type effect where everything gets boosted and double strike. So she's really, really strong. She helps us really push our aggro. She's also an Earthling, so she's fetchable off the Yamcha as well. Moving on into that, we've got 4 Chain Attack Trunks. So he's a 4-drop 20k. He evolves off of a Trunks GT for 2 red, so the Intensifying Power Trunks and the Anniversary Box Trunks. He's got the auto whenever he comes into play. You may play a battle card from your hand with a power of 15k or less. So we've got a couple different targets from here. Fearless Pan, burst attacks on Gohan, Digging Deep Vegeta, and Zeno, which we'll get into a little bit. He's also got the auto or permanent. He can attack battle cards in active mode, which is pretty good. Doesn't become super relevant, but there are situations where that's good for us. He's an Earthling as well, so everybody's pal can find him as well off the top. Next up, we've got 2 Foreseeing Hit, 4-drop 20k, double strike. Whenever it comes into play, you look at your opponent's hand, you can choose 2 cards, send them to the warp, and then they stay in the warp until the end of your opponent's next turn. So it's a great way you can play him, look at your opponent's hand, and you can kind of decide what's going on. You can see how many of the gates they have for the turn, what their combo power is, and you can really kind of gain that knowledge, like, can I swing in to try to win this turn, or are they going to try to kill me next turn? What do I need to do now versus later? And everything. It's one of the best cards in the game. It's definitely one of the best red cards. Unfortunately, because it costs 4, it's one of those cards that we're not going to see like a whole ton of access to. Ideally, we're winning turn 4, turn 5. So he's a great drop at that point. But before that, so we don't want to really have like 4 of these per se. Next up, we've got 3 Zeno the Plane God. Pretty much everyone knows what this is by now, but it's a 7-drop 15k. It's got the auto whenever it comes into play. Negate all other battle card skills, and then you and your opponent takes all their battle cards and cards in hand, shuffles in their deck, and redraws 5. So it's a total like board wipe. Board wipe, hand wipe. It's really great because you can play it with the Pan. So you play the Chain Attack off the Pan, then you play the Zeno, and you use the Pan's auto to trigger off the Zeno. So after the shuffle, you draw 1 off the Zeno, so you're now drawing 6 cards instead of 5, and the Zeno becomes a 20k, which is really good. Moving on into that, we've got the Dimensional Support Trunk, so he's really kind of the added engine card for the deck. So he's a 3-cost, Overwhelm 3 for 1. He's a 15k, and then whenever you play him with Overwhelm, you can search your deck for a skillless battle card with an energy cost of 2 or less and put it into play, and it gains critical for the duration of the turn. So this is really good. This lets us find our Yamchas and our Piccolos and kind of put those into play. So, and then we can do the same thing like we were doing with the Chain Attack and the Zeno. When we play the Dimension Trunks, we use the Pan's auto to place it on the vanilla card, so the vanilla card comes into play as a 25k crit that lets us draw a card. So for 1, we're getting 2 bodies and drawing a card, which is really, really strong. Really lets us help push that aggro and things like that. For our super combo, we're running 4 Sideline Assist Bulma. She's an Earthling, which is really good, so we can find her off the top of the Yamcha. She's a 4 or less super combo. Since we are running Overwhelm, we don't really want to run Sparking, so this is probably the better super combo for us. Next up, we've got 4 After Image Technique. It's not a pure negate, but it's very similar. It's a Sparking one as well, so whenever you play it, your leader gets plus 40k, and then you choose one of your opponent's battle cards and give it minus 10k for the duration of the battle. So it's a really great way to get us out of really awkward situations that we don't want to have to try to combo out over, and then we can remove something. It's basically a 50 card or 50k swing for our leader on certain attacks, or we can defend one attack and then kill something else or lower something else, so it doesn't have to we don't have to deal with it later and different things like that. It does have Sparking, so we do have 5 cards in the drop. Instead of paying its energy cost, we can just take a life and activate it, which is really strong there. And then finally, we're running 2 Planet M2. This serves a couple different purposes. Mainly, it helps deal with things like Vanilla Coup and things like that, which we can just give a battle card on our turn minus 5k. So we can just get rid of those. We can also give leaders minus 5k. And so it's really great for kind of fixing numbers. It effectively gives our leader plus 5k whenever we're attacking into things, so we can really kind of mess with math there. So overall, it's a really strong card. 2 is probably fine. Once 1 comes into play, you're probably never going to play another one, so it's pretty good there. Overall, what we're trying to do, we're really trying to just like build up a board, drop the Fearless Pan, give everything big, and double strike, and kind of swing in. The more turns we can start playing the Dimension Support Trunks, we're able to get more of these 20k vanillas out, and if they get ignored, then they just start adding up, and they start adding up, adding up, adding up. We drop a big Fearless Pan, they all get plus 5k double strike, and then we're kind of swinging in for big numbers and things like that to kind of really push that aggro. Like I said, majority of the deck is Earthling. The Dimension Support Trunks is an Earthling as well, so we're able to find it off the Yamcha, which is really good for us. This is one of the main reasons I want to go more on the Yamcha as opposed to the Anniversary Box Trunks, just because we want to be able to find these off the top. Kind of moving into the deck's elements right here, as you'll see right here on the right hand side. As far as the budget's concerned, it's a pretty cheap deck. It's about $60–70, kind of depending. Probably the most expensive card you're looking at is this Foreseeing Hit. I think those are like $10 to $12 right now, so not too bad. Everything else is super relatively cheap. The strengths, like we talked about, it can be a really aggressive deck. We're able to get big numbers out, we're able to give things double strike and plus 5k and kind of swing in. We're able to play things really efficiently with the Dimension Support Trunks, get multiple bodies out, and just kind of go in that way. It does have great card draw, because Pan, whenever we play a card, it effectively replaces itself. And then we've got cards that draw multiple cards that way, so we're always like refilling our hand as opposed to negging our hand. There are situations where that doesn't quite work out. Obviously, if we're playing like Intensifying Power Trunks, he only gets a plus 5k, so he doesn't become a 20k, so we don't get to draw off him. But every other card in the deck that we play, we're drawing off of, which is really good. And then defensively, we're able to like drop the double shots and draw off that as well. And then finally, the board reset with the board and hand reset with the Zeno is just a great way to kind of equalize things. If things kind of get out of hand, if your opponent's got a huge hand size, huge board size that you just can't deal with, you can drop the Zeno, reset everything back up, and then draw one more card than what they're drawing, which is really good for us. Going into some of the weaknesses of the deck, board wipes on our end are kind of bad. If they have like commies or things like that, they can kind of blow up our board, and then it takes us a little bit to reset everything back up. So that's a little bit of annoying. And then next up is Nimbus. Obviously, if they're playing Flying Nimbus and we're trying to go for this aggressive big board control like strategy swinging with multiple things, Nimbus can kind of put a wrench in all those kind of plans. But generally speaking, Nimbus is more of a sideboard card, and there are ways to play around it. As long as you don't swing with your leader first, you'll still be able to get 3 swings as opposed to the 2 if you swing with the leader first. So as long as you pay attention to things like that, overall, I think this Pan, like I said, is one of those, it's generally very good. I think this takes advantage of what Pan does very well, and it lets us kind of really set the tempo early. We can take advantage of things like Janemba and Broly Had a Mastery that can't really get going until turn 4, turn 5, and that's really what we're trying to do, is just kind of like blitz the board early, deal lots of damage, and kind of force the issue there. But anyway, guys, that is it, and we will see y'all next time.